So, like I said, you have a 20-question quiz on all the different ways we factor. It starts off with GCF. Before you factor anything, though, you should always look for a GCF first, right? We learned that yesterday. You always do GCF first, no matter what. So, number 1, is there a GCF besides a 1? Yeah, what is it? 2. So, 2 parentheses. What times 2 is 10m? 5m. And what times 2 is negative 12? Negative 6. And the parentheses there have no more GCFs and no difference in squares, so you're done factoring it. And that's your answer. 2 times 5m minus 6. Okay? It's hard to remember when times were that simple. But it's true. Number 2. First, you should look for the what? The GCF. What is the GCF between 24a and 14ab? 2a. Very good. So you factor the 2a. What times 2a is 24a?
12.
12. Plus what times 2a is 14ab? 7b. And that's all you can do on that one as well. So any questions on that? So if y'all have a question, stop me, okay? Because as soon as this is over, a quiz starts. Number 3 is a trinomial, but all I need you to do on number 3 is the GCF. So you got 3 terms to deal with. What's the largest number that goes into 2, 4, and 8?
2.
Do they all have an X?
Yes.
What is the smallest one?
X.
Do they all have a Y? What's the smallest one? So is everybody okay with 2xy being the GCF? Okay. So what did you need to multiply times your 2xy to get 2x squared y?
X.
One more x. Plus, what did you need to multiply times 2xy to get 4xy to the third power?
2y squared.
You needed 2 and 2 more y's. So 2y squared. Minus, what do you need times 2xy to get 8x to the 5th, y to the 5th? 4 more x's and 4 more y's. And that's all you can do on that one is factor the GCF. Because that's not anything I want to make a table with. Okay? So any questions about that one? All right. So number 4 has how many terms? How do we factor with 4 terms? Factor by grouping. So you're going to group the first 2 together and the last 2 together. And guys, y'all, I've been looking at your homework. Y'all think I might not look at that stuff? I look at that stuff. And some of you are still struggling with factor by grouping. Some of you will do the work and not write the answer down. Okay? So let's just very carefully go over this time. Okay? So you group the first 2, group the last 2. That means grouping means I have parentheses around it, right? Okay. That's one step of showing your work here. All right. So then you look for the GCF in each group separately. What is the GCF in my first group?
Y.
It's just a Y. So you put a Y and then you put your parentheses. And then you say, what times Y equals 3Y squared?
3y.
3Y. Minus what times Y is negative 2Y?
2.
2. Then you copy your plus in your middle. Y'all, I've been seeing no signs right here. That's incorrect. If you don't copy that plus sign there or whatever sign it is, you're not copying it there, that's mathematically incorrect. Because if you don't have anything between them, it's saying they're multiplied together, and they're not. They're added or subtracted. So make sure you bring your sign down. Now, what's the GCF in this group?
3.
A 3. And what times 3 is 9y?
3y.
3y. Minus what times 3 is 6? 2. Now, your 2 parentheses should be exactly the same. All right? Now, some of you are doing this step, and you're not writing down your answer. Well, what's the point in doing all the work if you're not going to tell me the answer? Okay? So, make sure you tell me the answer. No, well, the answer is 2 binomials. What 2 binomials are they?
3y minus 2 and 1.
Yeah, one of them is the stuff that's in both parentheses. The other one comes from squishing together everything that's not in parentheses. So you squish together that y plus 3. It doesn't matter the order. You can put this one in front of this one. Okay, as long as the insides of the parentheses are what they're supposed to be. So any questions about factor by grouping? Okay? You got to do all of that. Copy your plus sign, show me the answer. All right. Then, like I said, there's a lot of trinomials on your quiz. And to factor trinomials, most of the time we make a table. Trinomials make tables. I need to see your tables on your quiz. Now, the first ones are easy. How do you know these are easy trinomials? The leading term is a 1. So if the leading term is a 1, you can go straight from your table to your answers. All right? So on this one, you need two numbers that multiply to get 20 and add to get what? These are all positive. 2 and 10 will work, won't it? So what are my two factors? How do you write your answer? X plus 2 and? Yeah. That's how you write your answers. It's two binomials with parentheses. Any questions about that? All right, let's keep going. Number 6 here, I want two numbers that multiply to get and add to get. And what kind of signs are we going to need? A negative and a negative. I don't believe it will be -6 and -4, so give me something else.
-12 and -2.
Okay. And does that one add to get -14? Okay. So I have x minus 12 and an x minus 2. And that's my answers. Any questions about that one? All right. The next one, I need two numbers that multiply to get, that add to get. And what kind of signs are we going to need on this one? And the bigger one will be a negative. And what works? Very good. +1, -8. Does that add to get -7? So my two factors are, yes, a y minus 8 and a y plus 1 in either order, as long as you put the plus with the 1 and a minus with the 8. Are we good? Sorry. All right. So the next one, come see me tomorrow during Scheme Block, take your quiz. All right, so the next one, I need two numbers that multiply to get and add to get. What signs do I use?
Negative and a positive.
A negative and a positive. And what are they? -7, -7, +3, right? Does that add to get -4? We good? So I have an x minus 7 and an x plus 3. Those are nice and easy, right? So all of them that have leading terms of 1, you just go straight from the table to the answer. So any questions about that? Because on these, they start giving you leading terms that are not 1s. So what do you have to do to make your table first? You got to do first times last, okay, to start with. So I need this one. I need two numbers that multiply to get what? 36, and then add to get what? 5. And what sides do I need?
Negative and a positive.
And the bigger one is a, yes. Sydney's thinking on it. What are you going to tell me, Sydney? Well, I'll tell you what it's not going to be. It's not going to be -6 and +6. It's not going to be -1 and +3 either. It's not going to be -3. Chase, hush.
No.
I am not giving you one on the quiz that cannot be factored. There you go. I said it. Do not say cannot be factored on the quiz. That is incorrect. Nothing on the quiz cannot be factored. They're all factorable. Chase, tell us.
-4 and
-4, +9. Does that multiply to get -36 and add to get 5? Yay. Short way or long way? The long way, which means we copy the first term, we split the middle term with the table. So I say minus 4x plus 9x minus 6. So copy the first term, copy the last term. The middle term gets split by the table. So any questions on that so far? How do we factor with 4 terms? Grouping. Group the first 2 and the last 2 together. What is my GCF in my first group? 2x. So what times 2x is 6x squared? 3x minus what times 2x is 4x? Plus, what's my GCF in the next group? What times 3 is 9x? Minus what times 3 is 6? And I have the same thing in both parentheses. So what are my 2 binomials? Any questions about that? All right, the next one says 16r squared minus 8r plus 1. It's a trinomial. We make a table. I need 2 numbers that multiply to get what number? 16. And add to get what?
8.
Negative 8. And I need 2 negatives. -4 and -4 will work. So split the middle term because the leading term was not a 1. So 16r squared minus 4r plus 1. Group and group. My GCF on my first group is what? 4r. And that leaves me with 4r minus 1. Minus what's my GCF in the next group? And that changes all the signs to 4r minus 1. And my what are my binomials? 4r is hard to say. 4r minus 1 and 4r minus 1, or I could say, yes, if you write both 4r minus 1s, that's also okay with me. So any questions at all about trinomials? Okay, so you'll have some where the leading term is 1 and some where it's not 1. Most of your quiz will be trinomials. Make your tables. The last thing on your quiz will say to factor it completely. What does that mean, to factor it completely? What does that mean, to factor it completely? What does that mean? That means factor it till it cannot be factored anymore, right? You factor it till it's dead. It's done. No more factoring available. Okay? So that means you double check your binomials and make sure there's no differences of squares and that you have your GCF, that there's no GCF included in the parentheses. So what is the GCF of number 11? 1. So then we count our terms. How many terms do we have?
2.
It's a binomial, and every time we have a binomial, we look to see if it's a what? A difference of squares after we do the GCF. So, is this one a difference of squares?
Yes.
Yes. How do you know if it's a difference of squares? Yes, if they're all squares, if every number and every variable is a square, and there's a subtraction sign and it's a binomial. So then you make 2 parentheses. And what multiplies times itself to get 16n squared? 4n. Put them in the front. What multiplies times itself to get 25? Put it in the back. And what goes in the middle of a difference of squares? One's a plus, one's a minus. And none of those can be factored anymore, so that's our final answer for that one. So any questions on that difference of squares? All right, number 12. What do I do first?
GCF.
GCF comes first, always, always, always. So what is the GCF between 36 and 100?
2.
There's a bigger one.
4.
It's 4. Do they have a variable in common?
Yes.
No, so just 4 is the GCF. So let's factor out of 4 and we get what? What times 4 is 36? So that's 9x squared. We already had that number a while ago, right? 9 times 4 is 36. And what times 4 is 100? 25y squared. Am I done factoring?
No.
No, because this is a what? How do you know it's a difference of squares?
They're all squares and there's subtractions.
Everything's a square and there's a subtraction sign. So I keep the 4. I make 2 sets of parentheses. So what multiplies times itself to get 9x squared?
3x.
3x. What multiplies times itself to get 25y squared? 5y. And what goes in the middle for a difference of squares? A plus and a minus. And I think we're done with that one. Any questions? Okay. The next one is a trinomial, but before I even factor a trinomial, I look to see if it has a what?
GCF.
A GCF besides a 1. Does this one?
Yes. 17.
7C. Do y'all agree? So always look for those GCFs. It makes life simpler. So what times 7C is 7C to the third?
1c squared.
C squared. Minus what times 7C is 28C squared.
4c.
And what times 7C is 28C? 4. Am I done? Oh, there's a trinomial in there, so I make a table. So I need 2 numbers that multiply to get
4.
and add to get.
-1.
What kind of signs am I using?
-1.
Okay, what works?
-2. -2.
And we said this was the short way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's my answer? Yeah, you can write C minus 2 times C minus 2 or C minus 2 squared. But don't forget the 7C. So when you factor out a GCF, make sure you put the GCF with your answer, okay? Are we good on that one? Everybody good on that one? GCF and then a table? Is there a GCF besides 1 here? Nope. So what do?
You're being
4 terms, so we always do factor by grouping. So group the first 2, group the last 2. What is our GCF in the first group?
5x squared.
5?
Or 1x. 1x squared.
Just x squared. Okay, good. What times x squared is x to the third? Plus what times x squared is 5x squared? 5. Okay, copy the minus. What's the GCF in the next group? 4. What times 4 is 4x? And what times -4 is a -4? So what are our 2 binomials now? And x squared minus 4. So am I done factoring this one?
No.
No. Why am I not finished?
Because x squared minus 4.
That one's a difference of squares. So you keep the x plus 5. You don't change it. And you're going to pick this up into a difference of squares. So what multiplies times itself to get x squared? Put it in the front. What multiplies times itself to get 4? Put it in the back. And what goes in the middle of difference of squares? Plus and a minus. And now that one's done. So factor completely means factor it till it can't be factored anymore. Most of these are trinomials. I ain't gonna lie. So are there any questions before we start our quiz? I'm gonna stop the recording now.